Good evening and happy Friday. This is Shayna from the Trade Exchange, and what a roller coaster of a week it's been. The Dow Jones breaking new records, but this time not all the records we like to see. We'll get more into that in just a minute. In other big news, Credit Suisse is closing the XIV. Now, the XIV was a product managed by Credit Suisse that was intended to short volatility by betting on calm markets. And as we all know, this week was anything but calm markets. While on Monday, when the VIX shot up 118%, the XIV shot down 90%, leading Credit Suisse to make the announcement that they're closing the product. So a lot happened this week, a lot happened in the markets, and a lot to talk about with you this evening. Tesla made the news this week and more than once because on Tuesday they shot a car into outer space. That's right, Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, shot his Roadster on the SpaceX Falcon Heavy right into orbit. Well, even more news with Tesla is they reported their earnings this week and they came in better than expected. Now, the earnings per share is expected to come in negative due to the large capital expenditures they had for the slow start of their Model 3 development. However, they beat on these numbers. Their earnings per share, they're expected to come in at negative $3.12. They came in a bit better. They came in at negative $3.04. So they beat earnings per share by 8 cents. On the revenue side, they came in at $3.29 billion, beating the expectation of $3.28 billion. Now, 2017, it was a big year for Tesla. They started the delivery of their Model 3s. They unveiled the Semi and the next generation Roadsters. They actually installed the world's largest battery in Australia, and they also had record vehicle production deliveries on their Model S and Model X vehicles. So it was a big year. Following their earnings release, following this press release of everything they accomplished in 2017, Tesla was trading up, as you can see. However, it ended up coming back down. It's actually down this week nearly 12%. And this is after a conference call with analysts who mentioned on the conference call that they're skeptical. They're skeptical of these key financial numbers. They're skeptical of the reliability of Elon Musk's predictions about his production expectations on the vehicles. He says that some of these analysts mentioned that they reported, and the reported numbers were several one-time gains. So are these the most accurate numbers they were questioning? And they also said that although Tesla did maintain their Model 3 production guidance, they've repeatedly missed and they've moved these near-term targets in the recent months. So is that accurate? And some also noted that they didn't confirm where are production levels currently for the Model 3. So with that, and with the digestion of the markets of this conference call, Tesla's stock did come down, and we do see it trading down about 12%. Nevertheless, they did make history with putting the first vehicle into space, so Elon Musk still has something to smile about. Let's take a step back and let's talk about the U.S. markets for a moment, because that is the big news this week. It was just 2 weeks ago the Dow Jones closes out above 26,000, making record highs. And then this week the Dow Jones is making new records, but it's not making record highs. It's for the biggest point drops in history. Now, you recall on Friday the Dow Jones, it closes down 666 points. Well, that was being attributed to the positive job growth report, to the positive wage increase report, inflation concerns, and interest rate concerns. But then on Monday, towards the end of the day, around 3 p.m., we saw the stock markets go into a free fall. The Dow Jones falls 1,597 points, making it the largest intraday drop for the Dow Jones in history. It comes back, but it still closed down 1175 points. So it's still the biggest single day point drop in the history of the Dow Jones. Tuesday comes, the market, it comes roaring back. The Dow Jones closes up 567 points. So with that, it actually became the fourth biggest point gain for the Dow Jones in history. Wednesday, things are steady, things are shaky, but they're holding in there after Monday's free fall, after Tuesday's roaring back to the positive. Wednesday's a little shaky. Thursday comes and it falls again. Stock market closes down 1,033 points, making it the second most single point day drop in history, because of course Monday's still number one. And then today, the market, it closes up 330 points. But keep in mind, at 1:30 this afternoon, the Dow Jones was down 500 points. So it's just in 2.5 hours, it rips back almost 900 points. This just shows you the type of volatility that traders were experiencing this week. On Tuesday, you look at the VIX, it was above 50. Today, we saw it at 41. It closed out at 29. And then also worth mentioning the US 10-year. Fed speakers are talking about it, economists are talking about it, traders are talking about it. We're at this level of 2.8. They're saying if we hit 3%, I mean, that's going to show that's a huge economic indicator. They're saying that it shows that the economy is strengthening much faster than previously anticipated. So all of this is very interesting to see. Is this volatility going to continue into next week? And what is going to happen with the markets? So with all that, we're going to see what happens, and that's all going to be continued next week. Crude oil, take a look at crude oil because it settled today at 59.20. That's right, we're back below that $60 handle. In fact, crude oil is actually down 9% this week, so this could be the biggest weekly loss in nearly a year. Now, why is crude oil selling off? I mean, it's not just because of the sell-off in U.S. equity markets. Of course, that does have something to do with it, but it more has to do with the fact that U.S. crude oil production, it is surging. On top of that, Iran also said they want to start increasing their production. But let's talk about the United States. So the United States, we got our Baker Hughes numbers today, and the total rig count came in at 975. Now that's up 29 from last week. The oil rig count came in at 791, so that's up 26 from last week. We also got the EIA report, and it showed a 1.9 million barrel per day build. So these are some very big numbers. On top of that, the EIA released another report this week, putting the 2018 annual average productions at 10.6 million barrels per day. So with that, if these expectations that the EIA is forecasting are actually met, that's going to surpass the record that was last made in 1970 when it was 9.6 million barrels per day. The EIA says that this build, it could continue, and by November we could be at 11 million barrels per day. So U.S. crude oil production is continuing to vamp up, and with that, it's putting a lot of pressure on pricing, again pushing it down, where crude oil has now closed out this week below the $60 handle. And your indices. Let's see how the markets did as a whole this week. So the Dow, it closed down 5.2%, closing out 24,190. S&Ps, they also closed down 5.2%. They closed out 2619. Now the Nasdaq, it closed down 5.1%, closing out 6874. And taking a look at the VIX, it's been all over the place this week, but it closed out the week at 29.06. Well, that sums up one roller coaster of a week, and we thank you for joining us on this ride. We look forward to joining you next week to see what happens if this volatility continues, what happens with the markets. Very interesting to see because we haven't seen the markets this volatile in a very long time. Again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Good night.